What drives a person to commit the most heinous of crimes against their own family? This is a question that lingers in the minds of many as we delve into the chilling case of the Buchanan family. A family whose lives were abruptly extinguished, their story etched in the annals of true crime history. The Buchanans, a seemingly ordinary family, were swept up in an event so shocking it would leave a community reeling and investigators baffled. Adam Buchanan, Molly McAfee, and their 8-year-old son, Gavin, were discovered in their Northern California cabin. But this was no ordinary cabin getaway. Their bodies were found in the charred remains of their home, a horrifying tableau that painted a picture of a tragedy that had unfolded. The cabin, nestled amidst the tranquil wilderness, was reduced to ashes. The flames that engulfed the Buchanans' home were initially thought to be part of a larger wildfire, a natural disaster that the region is all too familiar with. But as the embers cooled and the smoke cleared, it became evident that this was no natural occurrence. The fire, once seen as a consequence of the wildfire, was now a suspicious element, an anomaly in the midst of the natural chaos. The fire's origin, the cabin, was now the epicenter of an unthinkable crime. The blaze had not been a random act of nature, but a calculated move in a chilling narrative. As firefighters and investigators sifted through the remnants of the Buchanans' home, the grim reality began to take shape. The family hadn't fallen victim to a wildfire. They were, in fact, the victims of a deliberate, cold-blooded act. In the face of such an unimaginable tragedy, the question remained: who could commit such a monstrous act? As the ashes of the Buchanans' cabin cooled, the investigation into their untimely deaths was just beginning to heat up. As investigators delved deeper into the case, a chilling revelation came to light. The Buchanan family's peaceful cabin, nestled in Northern California, had been transformed into a grim crime scene. As the embers cooled and the smoke cleared, the charred remains of the family were discovered. A tragedy, certainly, but one that began to unfold into something far more sinister. The fire, initially believed to be part of a wildfire, held suspicious elements that piqued the interest of the investigators. The fire's origin and intensity patterns were inconsistent with a typical wildfire. This discrepancy led to a deeper probe, and what was initially considered an unfortunate accident started to look like a deliberate act of violence, a homicide. The cabin had been intentionally set ablaze, transforming this serene family retreat into a chilling crime scene. As the puzzle pieces began to fit together, a startling figure emerged from the shadows: Nolan Buchanan, the 16-year-old son who had chosen not to accompany his family on this tragic trip. Nolan, who had continued attending school as if nothing had happened, became the focus of the investigation. His routine, his indifference, his seeming nonchalance, all of it began to crumble under the weight of evidence. From the family home to Adam Buchanan's office, investigators unearthed damning evidence that pointed towards Nolan. The boy was arrested at his high school, his normal life abruptly shattered by the weight of the charges brought against him. Charged as an adult with 3 counts of murder, Nolan was thrust into the harsh glare of the justice system. A story that began with a family trip ended with a horrifying twist. The boy who had stayed behind, the son who had chosen not to join the family trip, was now the prime suspect in the murder of his own family. The evidence pointed towards an unthinkable suspect, the family's own son. The Buchanan family tragedy had morphed into a chilling tale of patricide, fratricide, and suspected arson. A tale that reminds us that sometimes the most terrifying threats come not from the outside world, but from within our own homes. But how could a 16-year-old boy execute such a horrifying act? This question has been haunting the minds of many ever since the tragic discovery in the Buchanan family cabin. According to the police, Nolan Buchanan, the teenage son, was the mastermind behind this gruesome plot. The theory they proposed was chilling in its calculated nature. Nolan allegedly chose not to accompany his family on the trip to their cabin. Instead, he told them he would stay at home, giving him an alibi. But as his family enjoyed their time away, Nolan had other plans. He drove to the cabin, where he executed the unthinkable. His father, his father's fiancée, and his little half-brother were all victims of this cold-blooded act. In an attempt to cover his tracks, Nolan set the cabin ablaze, hoping the wildfire would erase any signs of his sinister deed. With the cabin reduced to ashes, Nolan returned home and resumed his life as if nothing had happened. He continued to attend school, interacting with his classmates, his teachers, going about his day-to-day activities just like any other teenager. The school district had no reason to suspect him, and Nolan gave them none. He carried on, hiding his devastating secret under a facade of normalcy. In the midst of normalcy, Nolan hid a devastating secret. His actions after the crime, his ability to hide in plain sight, and continue his life as if nothing had happened, all contributed to the chilling realization that a 16-year-old boy was capable of such a calculated, cold-blooded act. As we delve further into the aftermath and reflection of this tragic event in the next scene, we are left to wonder, how well do we truly know those around us? As the community reels from the shock, we are left grappling with a multitude of questions. The shockwaves of this unthinkable act have reverberated far beyond the immediate family. Friends, neighbors, classmates, the entire community is left in a state of bewilderment and grief. The court proceedings loom ahead, casting a long shadow over a community already darkened by this tragedy. The weight of the charges against Nolan Buchanan is immense. As a 16-year-old charged as an adult with 3 counts of murder, he faces the prospect of a lifetime in prison. The legal journey that awaits him is a daunting one, and the outcome is far from certain. Meanwhile, the friends and relatives of Adam Buchanan, Molly McAfee, and young Gavin are left to mourn their loss. They are left to grapple with the horrifying reality of their loved one's final moments, and the unimaginable betrayal from within their own family. The ripple effects of this crime will likely be felt by them for the rest of their lives. And then, there is the wider community. Schools, neighborhoods, towns, all marred by the dark stain of this crime. It's a chilling reminder that even the most seemingly tranquil communities are not immune to such horrors. This tragedy has shattered the illusion of safety for many, leaving behind a haunting unease. It's in these moments, in the aftermath of such a shocking crime, that we are forced to confront the harsh realities of our world. We are reminded that even the youngest among us are capable of the most heinous acts. But it's also in these moments that we see the strength and resilience of a community. The way it rallies together, supports the grieving, and seeks justice for the victims.